business on that meeting. That our 2 p.m. specially called city council meeting is adjourned at 2 p.m.
You'll have to leave executive session to go back into regular session.
Okay. We will adjourn executive session and reconvene regular session. And there being no further business, that meeting is adjourned at 2 p.m. And now
Mayor, I'm sorry.
Sorry, at 3:20 p.m.
Thank you.
We will now call a meeting of the Waco City Council on July 5th, 2022 to order at 3:20 p.m. Please join me for a moment of silence, and please keep in mind the victims and families for the tragic incidents that occurred in Chicago. Thank you. We provide an opportunity for the public to address the City Council on any agenda item or during the hearing and visitors portion of the agenda. On items other than public hearings, speakers will be allotted 1 3-minute presentation regardless of the number of agenda item the speaker wishes to address. If you're here to speak and have not filled out a registration card, please see the City Secretary staff at the registration table outside of the auditorium to provide registration information so that staff can contact you if necessary. If you have handouts, please let us know at the beginning of your presentation and staff will distribute those to council. If you're unable to approach the podium due to physical limitations, a microphone is available to be brought to you. Is there anyone present who would like to speak on a work session agenda item? Seeing no one is registered to speak, we will now recess the regular session and convene to work session with a report from the city manager.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. This afternoon, we only have one change to the agenda today. We would like to pull Resolution 2022-416. Take some time and express our thanks to Jonathan Cook, Megan Davis, and the Parks team, as well as Waco PD, Waco Fire, McLennan County Sheriff's Office, and all who helped to ensure that the City of Waco provided a top-tier 4th on the Brazos event yesterday.
Oh, yes. Look at there.
Yeah, I just want to take a moment to thank our Parks team, Jonathan and Megan and your whole staff. It was really top rate. Seeing the Commodores perform was really, really special, as well as a really great fireworks show. And so many members of the community enjoyed it. And I've gotten a lot of commentary today that this is such a meaningful community event for people to gather and enjoy it. So Jonathan and team, well done. Event couldn't have gone better. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It was an awesome concert. I enjoyed it so much. Sweated a little bit, but it was good.
In my understanding, I've been talking with some of the council members there at the parade, not together in groups of 3 or larger, but in my understanding, my sister's working the Lizzo concert this fall, and so we are in talks.
That's it. We got connections there.
There are 2 informal reports in the packet today. Informal report 2022-401, it outlines the upcoming Waco City Academy for the fall of 2022. And IR 2022-402, which covers our sustainable and resilient practices, including organizational update, management of the landfill gas collection system, fleet electrification, and green energy contract update.
Any comments or questions on any of these informal reports?
I really appreciate the informal report on the sustainable and resilient practices that the city is engaging in across the board. I think it's really helpful for us as residents and for us as leaders to know the things that we can do on the micro and the meso and the macro level to make our city more sustainable and green and ensure a healthy climate for the future. I wanted to just put a quick insert that if you are a resident that cares a lot about methane gas, one way that you can help take care of our resources is by composting. Mission Waco in D4 has a great compost process, and you can pick up a bin and fill your eggshells and vegetable scraps and coffee grounds into that, and then that gets used to help fertilize the Waco Hunger Relief Farm out on the outskirts of town, as well as Urban Reap in the core of the city. So we are addressing this on the macro level, but there are also lots of opportunities for our residents to take initiative and agency to make Waco safer and greener for the future.
I'll just chime in on this too, that, yeah, it's a good report. I appreciate Chuck pulling this together, really highlighting three initiatives that we're hitting on right now. The methane gas, we're kind of looking at that again and how we maximize the value of that out at the landfill. And secondly, the fleet, which I know we're having a study done on, and we're in the middle of kind of figuring out optimization of that, both from a cost perspective and a green perspective, and how technology has moved pretty quickly. Then thirdly, just highlighting the fact that we are on our electricity is all, I don't know how you'd say this the correct way, it's an all green electrical energy, 100% renewable energy for city buildings and what the city uses for electricity. So I think that's a nice highlight for this informal report. I just want to point out also that the SRPAB board, all the work they do, I know that they've reorganized and done a lot of good work there. Michaela McCown is chairing that board, and she's a District 5 person, and she's doing a great job there. And I like to see this little highlight is very helpful. Thanks.
Okay. There are 4 public hearings today. Public hearing 2022-410, and it is our annual public hearing to receive public input on the draft, excuse me, draft 2022-2023 annual action plan. No action is required from the council today. The action plan is our annual process and annual report that we provide to you all that kind of details out what the planned uses of those dollars are on an annual basis. So there will be a public hearing. Galen Price will provide a work session shortly, but there's no action required from you all on that public hearing.
Any more questions for staff? The consent agenda will include Resolution 2022-414 through 434. Are there any items council would like to remove from the consent agenda other than 416 and 425?
No, but were you going to highlight, you were not going to highlight any of the resolutions? Or?
No, sir, not
Okay,
today.
I just wanted to highlight one, and the answer, Mayor, I don't want to pull this out one, but I just want to talk about 421. And this is the resolution for the procurement of a new enterprise technology solution to modernize and enhance our ability to manage city business related to planning, permits, inspection, code compliance, and some other things. But I think this is a great investment. This is basically a process software for code compliance and permits and inspections. And of the citizen concerns I've been fielding here, a lot of them have to do with this. And I know with the growth that the city's been undergoing for the last few years, we're kind of overloaded. And I think this process software will really help us identify spots where we're strong, spots where we're weak, spots where we need improvement. And I'm a very big proponent of getting this a little more systemized. So I appreciate this resolution being on the agenda today. That's all I had, Mayor.
Any other comments on resolutions?
The only other comment I have is on 437, and that's our Waco Transit for seniors, right here. It says we go and pick them up and take them where they need to go, but I understand that an application first has to be submitted by the person to Waco Transit to be approved to be able to be picked up. Is this right? Okay, then do we charge that rider for that particular service? And if we do, how much?
Yeah, there is a fee, and if I remember this correctly, and Serena Stevenson, General Manager, is here, but I believe the cost is still $3 round trip, correct? Yes.
That's round trip?
Per trip, I'm sorry.
Oh, so $6 then really per,
Yes.
when you pick them up and then bring them back home, because I'm assuming they need a ride back
Yes.
home. So it's $6.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions on resolutions? The consent agenda will include Resolution 2022-414 through 434, except for 425 and 416. The next item on the agenda are work session items 2022-403 through 406. Deidre, would you please introduce the first work session?
Yes, the first work session is a discussion of fiscal year 2022, 2023 operating and capital improvements program budgets, development including past, present, and future aspects of the CIP and operating budget for all city operations and the budget calendar. Nicholas Sharpie is here to present today.
Continuing with our weekly discussions about the budget, we figured an opportunity to bring up anything
that is of importance to you for the 22-23 budget. That's what this really item is for. So if there's any topics that you want to bring up related to that, that's why I'm here. Otherwise, we'll get into the rest of the presentation, which is just the calendar. Which really is, next week we'll have budget and audit, we'll talk about the fee schedule and draft financials, budgets for the smaller funds. Still have a aspirational goal of being done that Friday. McCAD tax rolls come out on the 25th. The budget is not due until the 29th of July. And then that following Tuesday, we'll present the filed budget to you. And then we'll have the resolution setting the date for the public hearing and vote on the budget, which will be August 30th. And then we'll have on the 16th, there'll be a public hearing, and this is a new item to the calendar, public hearing and first reading on the municipal drainage utility ordinance changes. You'll have a resolution tonight about setting that public hearing. And then we'll also have the first reading on the ordinance setting departments. And then a resolution setting the date for the public hearing and vote on the tax rate. So August 30th is the big day. So that'll have the second read on the municipal drainage utility ordinance changes, and then public hearing and vote on the resolution on municipal drainage utility fee schedule revisions. They kind of align with the ordinance changes at this point. And then the public hearing on the budget, the adoption of the budget, and the second read of the ordinance setting departments. And then finally in September, we'll do the tax rate, public hearing and vote. And that's all I got for you.
Any questions for Nick? Nope. Thank you, Nick.
Okay, this afternoon, Galen Price, Director of Community Services, will be presenting the recommendations for the Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Grant Partnership Grant under the 2022-2023 Annual Action Plan.
Thank you, Deidre. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Today I will be discussing the annual action plan process and funding recommendations for the development of the 2022-23 fiscal year consolidated action plan. In this presentation, I will be discussing the process, the CDBG allocations and recommendations, along with the home allocations and recommendations, along with previous year's accomplishments and the next steps. Our action plan process is a accumulation of several steps. We conducted a community engagement survey to assist in the development of the action plan. We placed a QR code on all flyers which were placed in the libraries and recreation centers, made the survey available on via the My Waco app, and attended public meetings for direct engagement. A total of 32 residents participated in the survey. Here are the accomplishments for the previous program year. They include 17 homes receiving rehab assistance, 7 homes assisted with down payment assistance, 49 children provided with child care services, 45 families provided with rental assistance, and 299 homeless persons provided with various types of assistance, including case management and shelter services. This chart shows the funding levels over the previous 5 years, with fiscal year 23 being the highest total allocation received over the 5-year period. Unfortunately, this overall increase didn't keep up with the cost increases due to inflation. is used in a wide range of community development needs. There are limitations placed on certain spending categories, which are our administrative expenses, which are capped at 20%, and our public services, which are capped at 15%. Public service is the category in which we typically receive the largest number of requests for funding. CDBG funding must meet a national objective, which is to benefit low to moderate income persons, prevent slums or blight, or address an urgent community need. These funds can be used for activities such as housing rehabilitation, public facilities and improvement, as well as economic development activities, just to name a few. To provide context on how a person may qualify for assistance, those who qualify for housing rehabilitation, for example, are qualified based on our household income level being at 80% or below, as defined by HUD annually. Public facilities funded under CDBG must benefit an area where 51% of the residents have an income level at 80% or below of the HUD annual median income. I've included a map of the CDBG eligible areas within the city limits of Waco. Including staff requests, requests made for CDBG housing and public facility totaled a request number of 5. In an effort to increase funding available for programs, Code has completely transitioned from CDBG into the general fund. Programs recommended for funding include roof repair, which, while there is an increase in funding, the increase in cost for construction will impact the number of roofs that we're able to repair. And here you'll see a recommended amount of $300,000 for site development, as well as the 20% set aside for CDBG administration. In our public service category, we received a total of $292,000 in requests for this program year. Activities recommended for funding include Talitha Coon, Family Abuse, and Mission Waco. The total amount, recommended funding amount, is $120,072. Funding for Mission Waco was provided last year through our CARES Act funding for 24/7 shelter operations. Our home grant is used to create affordable housing opportunities for low-income households. As with CDBG, there are restrictions associated with home, including a cap of 10% on administrative activities and a requirement of setting aside a minimum of 15% of our allocation for our community housing development organizations. This year, that set aside amount is $117,371. Activities eligible under the home grant include down payment and closing cost assistance, the acquisition of vacant land for the purpose of developing affordable housing, and tenant-based rental assistance. Households are eligible for down payment assistance if they meet the HUD income guidelines. Funding for construction activities are awarded to developers and/or nonprofits who will construct homes for households who meet the HUD income guidelines. Under the home grant, we received 2 home nonprofit requests and 2 departmental requests. The request for the Heart of Texas Behavioral Health Network for the TBRA program does include funding for non-clients of the Behavioral Health Network. The goal is for the agency to assist 10 clients from outside their program, along with 10 clients from within their program. Also recommended for funding is money for grassroots CDC and for funding for housing development and down payment assistance. which are activities that were identified as needs in our strategic housing plan. Currently, a public comment period is being held, which began on June 17th and will complete on July 19th. We will have 2 public hearings, one of which is this evening, and an additional public hearing on July 19th. We will bring forth a resolution for the City Council to adopt the annual action plan, including the funding recommendations, on August 2nd, with the plan being due to HUD by August 16th. And with that, I'll answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions or comments?
I do. Thank you, Galen, for the presentation. So I wanted to go back to the study. And you said there was how many residential participants?
There were 32 residents who participated in the survey.
What was the goal? Because I think when we do these things, because this is very people-focused in how we set up, funding for these programs and these plans, and we want to make sure that it's reflective of what the pulse is. And I was just thinking, 32 seems low to me, but, have we considered, any incentives to get people to participate? I mean, even if it's a, I don't know, $5 gas card, or, which will get you half a gallon these days. But I mean, anything that would encourage more people to participate in this kind of function, because I know that though they are they are directly affected, they may not know how to participate in the process. And I'm not sure, and because I know you all have done a lion's share of communicating and things, but I think that number should be a little higher. So not that we need to do it again, but when we do it again, if we do it again, or how we expect to communicate with people about the things that affect them, we may want to consider something, if it's, I don't know.
Yes, ma'am. And what we, because of these are federal funds, we're kind of restricted on what we can provide or what we can do, but we will definitely look at alternatives to increase the number of participants.
Yeah, I just think that even if it's, Serena left so I can volunteer her little squishy buses. But I mean, something, give me something for my time. Whether it doesn't have to necessarily be financial, but if we can get creative in what we have to offer people for their time, I think that we would get more response, because I just don't think that that's enough. I know we got to move forward because it is what it is, but I just don't think that that's enough. So I figure the next time maybe we can do a little bit more to push a little bit further.
Any other questions or comments? Nope. Thank you, Galen.
Thank you.
All right, Mayor and Council, as many of you are aware, we have been significantly investing in our infrastructure in Waco with record of the CIP and infrastructure investment these past few years. Amy Villarley, Highland, Director of Public Works, and Lisa Tyre, Director of Water Utilities, are here to present today with an update on several of our major construction projects, particularly in the core of Waco. And looks like Ms. Villarley Highland has some visual aids.
I love visual aids. Come on. Come on.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Lisa and I are pleased to present to you an update on the major construction projects that are mostly in the downtown area. So today we're going to talk about public works projects and their status, what the current schedules are for those projects. Lisa's going to talk about utility projects and their schedule, and then I'm going to touch on the Improving Waco website, and we'll answer any comments and questions that you may have. So here are our major projects for public works: downtown, Dutton, Webster, Fifth, Washington, and then Elm. Washington Avenue conversion, as you know, is basically complete. So we are down to just doing some punch list items and finishing up some of the striping that isn't quite yet done. So the construction costs were around $4 million for that project with a variety of funding sources. So here's our before picture, and here is what it looks like now, courtesy of our information people.
I went up that street the other day and forgot it was a two-way.
Dangerous. Really quickly,
I
didn't
sure
you?
did.
That's right.
I got a lot of people that were honking at me.
Yeah, and as someone that takes that route home every day, I've enjoyed all the new striping and the two-way. I think that'll be great for our local businesses down there. But also, I like the way it weaves the chicanes that kind of come and go. I think it slows you down a little bit, but it's still a through street though. And so I think y'all did a great job with Washington.
Thank you. For Elm, as you know, we're complete with the section down by MLK, and we're also complete with the northern end, and we're working on that section in the middle right now. Another $10.8 million by the time we're done with Elm, partially federally funded, and then funded with a number of other funding sources, including TIF funds. So here's a before and after of section that we have done already. It's really striking now that we have those utility poles out of the way and you have a nice line of sight along the street. 5th Street, happy to tell you that you can now drive from Austin Avenue all the way to Interstate 35.
Oh, right?
Without getting detoured. We finally got that far, and one of the reasons I brought the visual aids to show you is that when we do these projects, we encounter things like this. This is actually a wood paver that was in the street in the vicinity of the railroad crossing, and it's creosoted wood, and what it was used for is to blunt the noise from the horses and carriages when they went over the railroad crossing. So this was probably the original quiet zone application.
Fantastic.
And you also know from many of our projects that we encounter these bricks and we encounter railroad rail. I couldn't bring any of that because I couldn't get a piece small enough that I could actually carry in here. So those are part of the reason for why we end up with delays in our construction projects, because we encounter these things that none of us are still around who remember that they were here or, you know, exactly where they were located. We don't necessarily have as-built construction plans that go that far back that help us with that information.
That's wild.
So here's the before for 5th. Oh, there's supposed to be an after there. Darn it. I'm sorry.
Well,
It was a welcome surprise because I was not prepared. I was prepared to make my usual a detour routes, and I was like, wait a minute. Can I go through there? And I mean, did a whole happy dance in the car. So don't worry about the after picture. Experience it for yourself.
yes.
Thank you. Yeah, and I have to thank Lisa for closing the water office early so we could get all that paving done before 4th of July weekend. So that really helped us out a lot. So Dutton Avenue has been somewhat of a painful project for us. We are this close to being complete with this project. It's a fairly large project, about $4 million. You all just executed a change order for us last council meeting that funded some additional paving on that street so we could take it to a more logical endpoint. That contractor is in liquidated damages right now, so we're hoping to get finished in the next couple of weeks.
I'm trying to see where it starts and where it ends. I can't see here,
Do you know the cross streets
yeah.
on Dutton, what those are?
Sorry, I think it's 11th. I'm not positive about that. I
So
apologize.
there is construction right now
Yes.
in front of the ball fields that have been under construction for over a year, I think more like 2 years. I drove by there again today, and Dutton is still tore up, and there's still detour signs. I was just wondering, when is that going to be done?
We had thought we would be telling you it was already done, particularly after this change order. They were supposed to start working the next day after that was ratified in the last council meeting. We're having issues with the contractor on that project, and other departments are having issues with that contractor as well. So I'm really hopeful it'll only be a few more weeks, but I can't tell you that for sure at this point.
Okay, because tell the developer, he is really holding up a lot of small kids and teenagers from accessing those ball fields, and that hurts. That hurts a lot, so that's why I'm trying to be real nice about this, but I hate that we're doing that.
Yes. Yeah.
But thank you for all your work, and I know you're trying your best, but it needs to get done, but thank you.
Agreed.
I would also like to just note that if we're having issues with this contractor as we engage in bidding processes in the future, however, we can evaluate acknowledging the struggles we've had with difficult contractors like this. We need to bear that in mind.
There's no reason to
We've
keep
made
paying the
several
same people that
changes.
make the same mistakes.
True. I was trying to be nice, and I'm glad the mayor did say that.
We actually have changed our liquidated damage structure to be more of a disincentive.
Okay.
And we've also added a provision that
Oh, that's
requires
good.
the prime contractor to perform a certain percentage of the work with their own forces. So
Great.
I think we're well on our way to solving that issue.
Thanks, Amy.
Good.
So here's a before and after of a part that I can show you of Dutton that has been quite improved by this project.
Where is that at? I live over there, and I mean, where is that at? I mean,
The 17th Street, I'll get to that because I asked one of my staff to get me that picture,
Okay,
but I'll
thank you.
find out and I'll let you know for sure.
thank you.
17th Street Bridge, as you know, had problems with the fire, and that's the second picture on the bottom is the spalling from the fire damage. The third picture over is spalling in the deck that just happens from wear and tear. And then the fourth picture is the bridge joint that was deteriorating from the movement of the bridge, expanding and contracting, missing piece of bridge rail on the left picture. So those were the types of things we were dealing with on 17th Street Bridge. And here's an aerial view of where the contractor is actually doing the new concrete surface on the bridge. They've already actually jacked up the bridge and replaced the bearing pads underneath that are holding the bridge up. And then they remove the existing surface and they're resurfacing it with a concrete overlay. And that work is actually being done at night because the contractor's having a very hard time getting concrete delivered because there's so much demand for local construction with us and with I-35. So here we go, driving over the bridge.
Amy, what do you anticipate as a timeline for this project being finished?
It should be open before school starts.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that would be
It won't
awesome.
be completely finished, but we should have traffic on it.
That's fast.
And I
What-
think probably by the end of the calendar year, we'll be substantially complete.
Okay.
That has really cut off South Waco from coming into downtown. Because we have to go down either to 26th Street and go over the railroad, or go down 11th Street, which I did the other day, and I was late to council because it was a long train, and we all had to wait there 11 minutes for the train. So I was thinking, what if an emergency were, ambulance or something, were sitting here, you know, I just don't, it's really hurting us trying to get into to downtown and wherever we need to go. But I know that I don't want to rush this one because I want to
gotta
make
be
sure
right,
that
yeah.
bridge
It's
is
gotta be
done
right.
well.
That's right.
But it is really hurting us because a lot of entrances coming to and from South Waco right now because of the construction is hard to get around. And you have to know the area to be able to get around. And of course, I know the area, so I know I can go either 26th, 30th, or down 11th. And I don't want to come down 4th and 5th, but now that maybe that work will be done as well, we can use that area. But it's really a pain. And I just thought about when my daddy had to get someplace, 4 minutes was a lot, and he died within those 4 minutes. So that really bothers me. But I want it done right.
Yeah, Alice, to your point, I think, South Waco happens to be trapped in all of this construction, the interstate construction and all of our road improvements. And while it is progress, it is frustrating while it's happening.
Yes.
I wanted to ask a question just on some of the logistics of this. Are these our comm team's drone footage of these projects? Is this a really effective way to demonstrate what's happening in the scope? So,
Yes.
okay, thank you so much.
Thank you to Monica and her team for getting these for us.
Great. Yeah, it's a cool way to look at the project.
Yeah.
So thanks for using that in your presentation.
Webster Avenue Streetscape, our project butted up to some local development that was being done by Magnolia to improve the overall area down there on Webster. About $2.5 million for our part of the construction, split among streets, utilities, and TIF. And you can see a little bit of before and after. We've improved the walking areas and the parking, increased some parking by putting the angled parking in, and just made it a more pleasant area for people who are walking around downtown. And then for schedules for these projects, here are these major projects that we've just talked about. Those white arrows are what our initial completion date was anticipated to be, as opposed to where we are anticipating it being now at this point in time. Among the reasons that I explained to you and brought my visual aids, some of these are the reasons why we find utilities we didn't know were there. We decide we're going to expand the scope on 5th Street. We decided we needed to replace a water line. So there are a number of reasons that point to why it is. We have weather delays sometimes, or the contractor has an issue with getting materials and they ask for a suspension of time. So just to illustrate that we do have some challenges ourselves with making sure that we get these done when we're hoping to get them done, but it's been particularly worse lately, I would say.
And the arrows in this slide represent what?
Our original anticipated contract completion date.
Okay.
It's truth in presenting.
That's good.
Thank you. And Amy, just as in terms of the scope of this presentation, is Suspension Bridge, is that under Parks and not Public Works?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that is. I'll pass it over to Lisa.
All right. Lisa, are you going to talk about University Parks Drive?
The whole
Okay, great.
presentation.
Thanks.
So I'm going to start with the map that kind of outlines where everything is that's going on down University Parks. So these are a little different color in this, in this presentation than what mine originally was. This was a yellow line. And this line is the CIPP, which is a cure-in-place product that's put in to strengthen and allow a sewer line to have longevity. And so we chose to do that rather than digging up all of University Parks on this end right here. And so that's a manhole rehab and replacement too for the manholes going down that street. That project's almost complete. Then we have the sewer line right here, which is a 54-inch sewer line. And it was not supposed to go down the middle of the street, but then all this other development happened all over here. So we had to move it to the middle of the street, which is one of the reasons why University Parks is not readily available to anybody who wants to use it right now. And then the blue right here is, it looks a little more purple than blue right now, but that blue right there and down over here, this is the current development that you probably can see if you can get over there, which is the public-private development with a lot of apartments and a restaurant. All that is going on right there right now. Then right here, this is Clay Avenue utility improvements. That is in design. Then we have the light green here. This will all be a University Parks reconstruction of that road because it's going to be completely decimated by the time we're done with all of these projects. And then the orange right here, I'm trying to get my little mouse back. The orange right through here This is another riverfront public-private development at Clay Avenue. Then this in the red, this is the Clay Avenue public-private hotel parking garage. And then this back over here is Riverwalk Phase 1. And then, of course, all this in green is part of Baylor and the Foster Pavilion. So as you can see, it's not one project. When you come over here, it is multiple projects. And I have a great deputy director who is a professional engineer who has worked on the consulting side as well as the private side as well as the public side now. And he is managing this whole layout right now. It takes about half of his weekly hours are spent to just managing this project. So it is quite a monstrosity that it is going to be, but it is one of those things that is downtown altering. It will never be the same again. And so it's going to be a painful while, but it will be amazing once it's done. And so the projects that we're really talking about are the University Parks Boulevard CIPP and manhole replacement, University Parks Boulevard 54-inch sewer, Riverfront Public-Private Development, Clay Avenue Utility and Street Reconstruction, University Parks Boulevard Pavement Replacement, Riverfront Public-Private Development at Clay Avenue, Riverwalk Phase 1, and the Clay Avenue Hotel Parking Garage. So I think that's 8 projects.
That, like right now, as you said, due to that, I guess it's the sewer line replacement, you can't go through both ways on University Park, so that block or 2 right there. Once that phase is done, do you anticipate it being fully blocked like that again? This is irrespective of the interstate, what's going on underneath the interstate, but do you expect that level of kind of blockage going forward?
No.
There should be a lane on each side going forward.
It may be that there's a lane on one side, but going each way.
Okay, sure, sure, yeah.
But there's so much construction going on, it's hard to say that they won't need part of the street to do part of that construction. There's just so much going on. And of course, when we go back to reconstruct University Parks, that's going to be painful as well.
But that'll probably close down one side while you send it to the other.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll be phased construction.
Okay, thank you.
And so right now, the CIPP cure in place, it's 99.7% complete. The contractor has had difficulty finding concrete to meet the specifications because they need small batches. They don't need a ton of trucks. They need a small batch, and that's just not as readily available right now to the contractors. So we're expecting that to be complete the end of August. So University Parks Boulevard, 54-inch sanitary sewer, this is deep. This is from Baylor's Clifton Robinson Tower to Webster Avenue. It's 66% complete. Estimated completion is August or September of 2022. Closure of Clay Avenue. Clay Avenue was closed this week. And eventually Webster Avenue will be closed. When Webster Avenue is closed, Clay Avenue should be back open then. Right now, for those who need to get to the Clifton Robinson Tower, they can take 2nd Avenue and go across University Parks to get there. We expect, because this involves TxDOT, I can't say for sure, we expect for University Parks to be back open once we have completed Clay, for that section from Clay to University Parks to be back open. But TxDOT is doing some work right there too at the interstate, so it's difficult for us to speak for when their project will be ready.
Do you think there's any possible scenario with all the university students returning mid-August that University Parks because TxDOT should be done under the interstate right there.
Right.
Do you think there's a possibility that you can't get through either way for any block of University Parks between Franklin and the interstate?
I think there's a possibility, but it's not likely. I think that we'll have it open all the way by then.
Okay.
If not, it'll be, the 1st of October, then it'll be open, so it shouldn't be a big delay. You know, as Amy says, everything is barring weather, which right now looks really promising for construction, but not so good for water and rain and for plants. So the closure of South University Park's Boulevard will continue on, I guess, for right now. And then it should be, we're hoping, as I said, to have it open in a few months. Riverfront public-private development, ongoing construction of a mixed-use multifamily office and restaurant. It's 75% complete. They're estimating that they'll be open October 2022. It's hard to see that from the pictures, but I'm being told that by the developer that that's at the timeline.
Wow.
And then we have a bunch of other projects that are just in design right now. So the Clay Avenue utility and street reconstruction, that's new utilities and paving to accommodate the Pavilion project and Riverfront project, that's at 10% design. University Parks Boulevard pavement replacement, that's from Franklin to Interstate 35. That project's to repair, replace all paving damage due to construction, and that's just beginning design. Riverfront public-private development at Clay Avenue, it's mixed-use parking and restaurant, and it's at 15% design. Riverwalk Phase 1. Phase 1 is between Webster Avenue and Interstate 35, and it's 20% design. And Clay Avenue public-private development, hotel parking garage next to Baylor's Foster Pavilion, and that's really just kicking off as well. And so this was kind of our timeline. So the CIP and manholes, you can see we started this project back in July of 20. There was design time, bidding time, and then there was delays. And some of the delays were because we didn't want the work going on while there were certain events occurring downtown. And some of the delays were simply trying to get material. And so we're expecting that to wrap up. We hope the end of July, it may be the 1st of August. 54-inch sewer, again, this is a project where we started design November 20, went out to bid, and then they couldn't get pipe material. And so it was delayed, and so we're expecting that to wrap up. We're saying September, but it could be August. It's right in that timeline. Riverfront development, it actually started in 2019 in design. It is in construction. We're expecting that construction to be completed in October. Clay utility and streets, we're expecting, well, that's in design right now. We're expecting design to be finished in October with a bidding period, and then that construction to wrap up in January, looks like that's January of 2024. University Parks pavement replacement, it's in design, just getting started. There'll be a bidding period, and we don't expect that project to wrap up until 2025. Riverfront and Clay Avenue in design, we expect it to wrap up in January of 24. Riverwalk Phase 1, we're expecting that to, it's actually in design again, and we're expecting that to continue on through 2025 as well. And Clay Hotel and Parking Garage, it is in design, and we're expecting that to be completed around January of 2024.
Apologize for all the questions, but one other on Riverwalk Phase 1, which looks like the construction period is significantly lengthy, maybe 2 years or so. Will that be open during that period of construction to pedestrians and bicyclists and runners, or likely not during that period of
Likely
construction?
not, or there'll be parts of it that won't as they phase, my guess is they'll phase that into. I have not seen it's so early in design, I have not seen what the phasing in of that will look like.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and just a reminder from Lisa and me about the Improving Waco website. There are 2 ways that you can get there. Well, there's 3, but there are 2 up on your screen right here. Either one of those will take you to our interactive website that gives you information about the projects. The 3rd way is the QR code, because we're all getting hip with that kind of stuff now. So there's also that QR code that you can click on as well, and it will take you to the website. Just as a reminder, this is what it looks like. You can click on the logo at the top if you want to see it in a larger version, and there's also links to the TxDOT information for TxDOT's projects. And then down the left side are information on all of the road closures. It'll tell you if it's a partial closure or a full closure, when it started, and when it's estimated to be completed. So you can also click on those for further information. So the red lines are full closures, the orange lines are partial closures, so one lane might be closed or one of 4 lanes might be closed. And you can select any particular line and click on it to get further information, including who you can call if you have a specific question that you would like answered. Reminder that this is always available for you if you or any of your constituents have a question about any projects that are ongoing. And right now, that's limited pretty much to the downtown area, and we are planning to expand that in the future to cover more of the city.
And is this part of the website available in Spanish as well?
I believe it is. And then we're down to any questions?
Any questions or comments?
Oh,
Go ahead.
okay, I'll comment. Yeah, thanks, Amy and Lisa, for the presentation. This is great. Because streets and infrastructure is so important to this council. I know we made a big commitment, 4 or 5 years ago, to take our annual budget from somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 to 5 million up to 20 to 30 million, just to address the deferred maintenance and just to demonstrate some commitment to we want to fix the streets for all Waco. And so I appreciate the work you're doing in tracking all these projects. These aren't inexpensive undertakings, for sure. I mean, just the 6 projects you talked about, Amy, over almost $35 million just in those. And we've got many other projects going on in the neighborhoods and in other parts of the city. But it's so important to get these major thoroughfares kind of opened back up to Alicia's comment about Dutton kind of taking a long time. We got these connective arterials are very important. And even ones you didn't mention that are more TxDOT related, like China Spring Highway that we've done in the last 3 or 4 years, the Spiegelville 84 overpass that's opened up a lot out there in the western part of the city, and I-35 that we're working on as Councilmember Bordery mentioned, that we think it's going to be sort of complete, essentially complete by the end of the year. I'd like how you talked about the challenges, because we try to, even the amount that we put towards these streets, we're not exactly sure what's under there. So you brought that is amazing. I mean, that little chunk of wood there. It's the fact that we're digging down, we have a budget for what we want to do, and then I know we had the same issue on Elm when we had the interurban. There's a whole railroad underneath there that people just started paving over without really thinking, well, is this the best solution for this street? And now I think we're putting, permanent or, longer term thought into how we're fixing these streets. So I appreciate that. And then also with the challenges of inflation and supply chains that you didn't even mention that, but those are elongating some of these projects too. But I just want to express my appreciation that you all managing this process, and these are big dollars, big taxpayer dollars at work. And on the utility front, Lisa, that U Parks and Riverfront, I mean, that's a dream for all of us becoming a reality. I mean, that's been, I know the first developers kind of came in, well, we can go back a long time, but I think 12, 15 years ago, they came in and said, hey, this could look kind of cool, but we didn't have the right, everything didn't line up. Now things are lining up, and it's under construction. You can kind of see what the end of it's going to look like. It's so exciting. In the next couple of years, that riverfront's going to be something we can all be proud of. A lot of orange cones, and the Trib had a good article a couple of weeks ago about all the orange cones downtown, how they're kind of keeping people from getting to where they want to go. But the conclusion there, this is progress. This is project progress. This is a good thing. And this is all transformative for what we want Waco to be, and we're here trying to make it happen. And it goes back to the management, the taxpayers, and council. We're all trying to get this thing done, and it's an exciting time to be a Wacoan. I'll say that. I also like the Gantt charts in there. That's always a good thing. Appreciate those being included in the presentation. But still, I like seeing this every 6 months or so. This gives us a good feel for how the bigger projects are are coming along. So thanks a lot, Amy and Lisa.
I also wanted to mention that we're going to come back and present again as soon as we can get some architectural design drawings of what everything's going to look like that are reflective of what really the final design is planned for. So there'll be a future meeting where you'll be able to more visually see what's happening on University Parks.
Grateful for this presentation, the nice illustrations there, and all the great leadership that both of you are providing for your departments and all the good work that your folks are doing out there for the city. I think that as someone who, you know, between my wife and I, we take 17th Street Bridge, we take Washington, we take 5th, I work on University Parks. So I've lived a lot of this the last few years, as many of our downtown and downtown adjacent residents and employees have as well. I know Andrea and I have commiserated about 5th Street and others over the last few months, but I do feel, and I think the sense of the council is that you're doing good work, and we appreciate you're expediting the quality of work, and it's a landscape in which supply chain, labor shortage, and cost of materials is just really such a variable that it's made it difficult. But I feel like y'all are full speed ahead. We're getting through it, and just I would ask that you continue to be mindful of road closures altogether going forward, especially as we're returning to full capacity in most aspects of our society. So thank you both so much.
So thank you for the presentation. I know that it is a tremendous undertaking, and it is all happening at the same time, but nevertheless, we persisted and are working through getting these projects done, you never know what you're doing until you open it up, right? And that's what we're experiencing. One of the things that is my concern and has been my concern is in our communities that are either adjacent to residential properties, but more so adjacent to commercial properties, is that there's consistent communication with those business owners, because they had no idea opening their business that we were going to evolve and grow and potentially stop all of their earnings or slow them down a tremendous effort for the sake of progress. Necessary, but that's not what they banked on when they got up that morning to decide to open their business. So what I want to know is making sure that, yes, I know in the beginning process you talk with the business owners, you let them know where they're going. And for the most part, I have heard that, the team has been incredibly communicative, but I want to make sure that that is our standard, that not just at the beginning of the process, but in the middle, or, hey, we've hit a snag, or snap, here goes 58 million pounds of bricks. Those are the things that are relayed to those business owners, because that is going to affect their bottom line in a tremendous way. I know that I have asked city management about potential mitigation programs that other communities do. I know I was sent the City of Milwaukee's construction mitigation program that had some sort of benefit for those businesses that are impacted by construction that, they had no idea of. And I want us to give consideration to that. I don't know if that, well, she disappeared. I don't know if that has to be a future agenda item, but it's one of those things that I would like to be looked at, because we've got, especially in our Renaissance communities where, they're just coming online, they had no idea that this type of construction would be going on and for its length. So I want us to make sure that we're giving consideration to our communities who are growing and being revitalized and those kinds of things, and those business owners especially. But, when you do consider that you've got whole communities that are kind of cut off, or made at their own island in the name of progress. So we've got to make sure that we're doing right by them through this process. And even if it's just to say, hey, this is where we are. Yes, I know they can go online and look, but it's something else if I come and tell you. I don't know that somebody couldn't take a moment and say, hey, I know that this is a pain in the butt. Here we are. This is where we are. This is what we found. These are our anticipated dates. Show them the arrows and go from there. But I want them to be communicated with at that level, because I think that's what they deserve.
We do have that information, and we'll look at the best way to bring that back to the council.
Thank you, Deputy City Manager.
Thank you for that. Councilmember Barfield, there is also, not only our baseball fields being impacted on Dutton, there's a local tortilla shop that opened up there that was really being impacted by the construction. His clients, his customers couldn't get to him, so I addressed that to Bradley, and he had some signs and had y'all do something to be able to, he had signs put up to show them the way to get there. But a lot of folks don't want to be crossing those construction projects and problems that are out there to mess up their cars. So I know that particular restaurant is barely hanging on, because he called me. So that Dutton Avenue not only impacts the quality of life issues for our kids, but also the livelihood of another person who opened up a business there not knowing he was going to be impacted by this. So I don't want us to forget that tortilla there on Dutton Avenue. If we could go and tell him, hey, hang on just a little bit, or help other folks to be able to get to his place. This developer doesn't realize what he's doing. He's hurting a lot of folks by not accomplishing his project that we asked him to do. We're paying him to do. So I think we need to be cognizant of that fact. And let's hurry up and get that done. We're hurting a lot of folks, and that's not what this council is about. We're about helping businesses, especially small businesses. So, yes, I understand progress, but this is a little bit too much progress that has been on hold for quite some time.
We actually brought lunch in from Tortilleria Rio last
You
week
did
to
what?
our office. We
did-
brought lunch in from their office, to our office from Tortilleria Rio last
Did you?
week. Yeah.
Well, good. Maybe more folks need to do that so they can help him out.
Yeah, I mean, and it's
You know, it's-
understandable. I mean, just
yeah.
like with that instance, I mean, you know, the business 310's kitchen on, you got to drive through the church to get to the back corner. It's real weird. And so, that particular business owner is trying to do what he can do, but it's almost, I mean, you've got to really know how to do that, because there's no clear path. And so I'm thinking with, it's not just these two businesses, there are other businesses. I know
Yes.
when we were talking about different sections, of streets and how we do it, it's one thing, but when it gets real squirrely, so all of the all of the access points, except for maybe like a half of one, I mean, you've got to really want to get there. And you're making people make decisions that they shouldn't have to make. And then, which, again, it's good, it's progress, we have to do it, but, let us make sure that we're, my whole point, if there are ways to assist, we need to find those and do those. If there is not, we need to be crystal clear in how we communicate that to our business owners, because we don't want to lose those businesses as a victim of circumstance, unintended consequences.
I agree totally. These folks didn't realize, like you said, get up in the morning and all of a sudden they don't have a business going. But the developer is an issue that's really bothering me right now. And I'm trying to be nice about this, Mayor, but it's affecting so many people. So I don't know why we hadn't already done something about this. But I'm encouraging you to try and get that done, because not only quality of life issue, but a business is being affected there. So, and I know it's not the only business in town, but still, we don't want to hurt our businesses. So I'm just encouraging you to tell this developer, get with it or get off the pot. Let's do somebody else up there. But it's hurting us, and that's my issue. Thank you. But thank you for this. The Riverwalk project is, and all the development going on there is really so different for us that have been brought up here in Waco to see all that going on You know, we're used to housing being there and small businesses being there, and all of a sudden it's going to be a beautiful place where everybody can go and enjoy. So thank you for that. Thank you for this report. And I need Dutton fixed.
Yes, ma'am.
Put that in the form of a motion.
Thank you.
Thank you for this report. This is such a great sign of progress in our community. Waco is a historic city with so many significant needs in regards to capital investment. And the status quo of where we've been is certainly not okay and where we want to be. And with renovation comes growing pains. But certainly, and while we might be experiencing some of those growing pains right now, we know that the end product is going to make it well worth it. Just to echo my council members, I think some cities have adopted really creative construction mitigation strategies and how they deploy strategic communications with those impacted. And I want to get creative about that too, not just go to landlords or property owners, but go to individual businesses along the way and start planning with them ahead of time and seeing, if cones are out a little bit too early or a little too late in the construction process, can we remove those? Or what does it look like to really make sure that we're being conscientious of the families and small businesses that are being impacted by this? And then also kind of to echo what's been said is continued examination of how to procure the best contractors who are going to deliver as quickly as possible. But I commend our team's work to get us to this point, and know that for us to have the city that we want to have, we must go through growing pains such as this. So thank you so much for this. One thing I want to point out is I think that there's a downtown walk on Saturday, maybe at 8 o'clock I saw on the news.
And it's, we're going to be seeking input from people for our improved downtown project that we're doing right now, where we're visioning what do we want our downtown to look like and what type of amenities do we have. So Waco Walks is leading the walk. It'll be about a 2-hour walk. It's earlier in the morning so that we can get done before the heat, hopefully. I think they've tried to make it a walk that emphasizes all the places we'd like input on, as well as keeping us in the shade as much as possible. So I'll be out there with Ashley from Waco Walks.
I think it's a great opportunity for our community to be able to speak into the current construction projects and future construction projects we'll look at with regard to streetscape and streetscape design. Because I think those are things that weigh on us as we look at the projects here and the projects to come. So thank you so much.
Thank you for the reminder. Try not to make any more mess than I already made.
Well, as Amy's gathering up her visual aids, Clint's going to come and give us his, he's our last work session for today.
Thank you, Mayor. City Council, we just have the 3 public hearings tonight. All 3 public hearings are related to subdivision plats. We do have 3 subdivision plats. The first one is the preliminary plat of the Noble Estates Edition. This is a new subdivision out in the ETJ, out in the China Spring area off of 2490, which is Worthing Bend Road. This is about 3 miles north of the intersection of China Spring Road and Worthing Bend, so it's about 3 miles from our city limits. Proposed 60 lots on 81 acres, so all the lots are over an acre in size, will be served by Cross County Water Supply Company. And they are requesting a variance to our maximum cul-de-sac length, which is 600 feet. They have 2 that are longer than that. One of them is planned to be extended for future development, so that will turn into a through street, and then the other, there's developed property there, so there was not an opportunity to extend a street over to the adjacent street, which is Quail Haven. So they're asking for a variance to that length requirement. And the Plan Commission did recommend approval of the variance and the plat on this one. The next plat is the Church Road Estates Edition. This one is actually going through the annexation process. This is 77 acres off of Harris Creek Road and Church Road, just south of our city limits, by Trailblazer Park, Sunwest Edition, just to the north. Proposed 90 lots on 77 acres, so again, pretty low density. Average lot size in here is about a half acre. They are going through the annexation process and rezoning to R1a Zoning, which is a large lot zoning district. This will be both Waco water and sewer. In similar situation, they are, because of the low density of the lots, just being a little bit more spread out, they are requesting variances to our block length requirements. They're just a little bit over 81 feet in this block and 100 feet in this block. And again, kind of the same situation, because of the adjacent property being developed, there's not a chance to extend like we normally would there. And then with low density, Plan Commission recommended approval of this block length variance as well. And then the last plat is final plat and construction plans of the Chapel Wells addition. This is a 26 lot subdivision that is connecting the Callan Village development off Ritchie Road back to Chapel Road. And these are also large lots ranging in approximate size of half acre per lot. And these are already in the city limits of Waco. And Plan Commission recommended approval of all these plats and the variance associated with them.
So this is already currently in
Correct.
Waco city limits?
This one is in the city limits. The other two are in the ETJ, with one of them going through annexation.
Okay.
Questions for staff? All right, thank you, Clint. Are there any requests for future agenda items?
No.
We will now recess the work session and reconvene regular session for executive session as read into the record by the city secretary at 4:32 p.m.
Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.071, civil litigation involving the incident that occurred at Twin Peaks Restaurant on May 17, 2015, and as more fully described in Exhibit A in this posting. B, Stanley Mason versus City of Waco, Texas, and Ryan Holt, former acting chief and former chief of the City of Waco Police Department. Cause number 620CV00844 ADA JCM, pending in the United States District Court for the Western District of Texas, Waco Division. Number 2, real property, Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.072. Number 3, economic development, Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.087. Number 4, personnel, Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.074, City Attorney Jennifer Ritchie.
And now we're in executive session.
We are now in executive session.
I'm like, we can't move until you talk.